What is going on, Lions fans and One Pride Nation? Welcome back to the Lyons Den. This is episode 8 of Lyons Den Weekly. Sorry that I could not get this out over the weekend. Work called, so when duty calls, that comes first. So Friday or Saturday, I did not have a chance to get anything out. I was going to skip this week as there was not a whole lot of stories, but you know what? I want to be consistent with you all and keep this thing going weekly. So I only found 3 stories that stood out to me this week. And the first one is remaining free agents of the Lions who are unsigned. So the article's up there on the screen, and then we're going to scroll through it and see what it's talking about. It says that the Detroit Lions had a relatively modest free agency ahead of the 2025 draft. Despite needs along the defensive line, the team did not make an external splash to acquire a high-priced defensive end. It talked about, it says Brad Holmes and the coaching staff are hoping Marcus Davenport will stay healthy given his physical profile fits. So we know that Brad Holmes has been really big on re-signing the guys that we have here. It goes on to say, I think this is Brad Holmes speaking. Look, I'm more than happy with how free agency went, and I say more than happy because we were able to get guys that we really wanted to get. Then I'm going to scroll down and we're going to look at the Lions free agents who remained unsigned. So here are all of the Lions that have that played, all players who played for the Lions in 2024 who have not been signed. Quarterback Teddy Bridgewater. Now we all know that Teddy Bridgewater came in at the end of the season to be Jared Goff's backup going into the playoffs. Running back Jamar Jefferson, wide receiver Allen Robinson, wide receiver Donovan Peoples-Jones, offensive tackle Connor Gavin, nose tackle Kyle Pico, linebackers Ben Nyman and Quan Alexander, cornerback Emmanuel Mosley, and kicker Mike Badgley. Now, let's go through this list and let's see who the Lions will be likely to bring back. Now, I would think, so we can go from the top to bottom. I would think that Teddy Bridgewater may be on the list because they seem to not be completely confident in Hendon Hooker, but they did also bring in Kyle Allen. So they may not be that pressed to, bring Bridgewater back. As for Jamar Jefferson, he has been serviceable, but the Lions now have 4 running backs on the roster. So I see them being hard pressed to bring him back. The Lions did resign Tim Patrick, so we have a number 3, even though we could go in the draft and get a younger number 3. And we still have Khalif Raymond, so that's 4 receivers. But are Allen Robinson or Donovan Peoples-Jones worthy of being the 5 receiver? Or do you want to see them get a young receiver in the draft? That's what I would rather see. So maybe not those guys. Connor Gavin is interesting because the Lions are looking to keep depth on the line. They're trying to figure out who are the starting 5 going to be, and they're also adding depth. So he could be a coin toss where he stays or goes. Kyle Pico had a lot of injury issues in 2024, so he may be gone. I thought that linebacker Ben Nyman did pretty good, but if there's anybody on this list, if I had to only pick one, I would probably say Quan Alexander. Quan Alexander is still young, and if I'm not mistaken, he was an all defensive player a couple years ago in like 23 or 22. So if there's anybody that you want to keep on this list as depth, it would be him. I think that the Emmanuel Mosley ship has sailed. The Lions brought him back in 2024, and he was injured and did not play again in the season. And I think that kicker Mike Badgley, I mean, if you want to bring in a second kicker, you can. But I think that Jake Bates did more than enough to show the Lions and Lions fans that he is a valuable piece of the team, and he will be the Lions, kicker going forward. So that is my thoughts on that. Let's move on to, sorry about that. Let's move on to our second story. Our second story is really, let me see. I'm sorry about that, y'all. Let me get it in the trenches. Sorry, I lost my spot. There it is. It's about Aidan Hutchinson. Sorry about that. Lost my spot. So our second story is about Aidan Hutchinson update. Now, when I saw this article last week, I was a little nervous because if you look at the title, it says Lions fans emotional after Aidan Hutchinson's latest injury update. So not knowing, I went into this article thinking, my goodness, he had a setback, but it seemed to be nothing but good news as I read into the article. It says the Detroit Lions are expected to enter this month's NFL draft in a position of strength on defense, with star players like DJ Reader and Aidan Hutchinson expected to return. Hutchinson, a fourth-year pro from Plymouth, Michigan, is expected to command a large salary increase via a contract extension despite missing most of the past season. And it goes on to say when and how he got injured. Hutchinson has been working the past 5+ months to get back on the football field at full strength, a journey that has been the subject of much focus among Lions fans on social media. On Friday, Hutchinson shared a new injury update along with a video that had Detroit Lions fans in their feelings. More were excited over another possible defensive player of the year caliber season. I'm reading a little more. It says, this is Hutchinson. Feeling like myself again, Hutchinson wrote in a Facebook post on his family's House of Hutch page, along with a video of himself ratcheting up the intensity while running at the Lions indoor facility. Hutchinson appeared much faster and more athletic than he did in his February 17 video. So my thoughts on that are nothing but positivity. Nothing but positivity. We want Aidan Hutchinson to come back, and we want him to come back full strength. Being young, I do believe that that's an injury, that broken leg, that broken fibula is an injury that he can come back from, and he can come back from full strength. And I want to see him pick up right where he left off, and I believe he can. He can have another defensive player of the year type of season, but I do still think that it's imperative that the Lions get another edge rusher. I would like to see the Lions bring Zadarius Smith back as a situational pass rusher. I've mentioned this before, but I do believe that Zadarius Smith and Marcus Davenport are situational pass rushers. I still would like to see the Lions either get a young pass rusher come in who can be a complement to Aidan Hutchinson, or B, still trade for someone like possibly Trey Hendrickson. When it comes to trade, he's about the only guy left out there. If we learned anything from the Eagles in the Super Bowl, it's important to have a beefed up defensive line where you can get to the quarterback with the front four and don't have to bring all those blitzes, and you allow the linebackers to just stay in the back and do their thing. So what is your thoughts on Aidan Hutchinson? Are you as excited as I am? As I mentioned, I really thought that Aidan Hutchinson, I thought that they were going to give us some bad news, to be honest with you. I thought that when it said that Lions fans were in tears, I really thought it was going to be an issue of Aidan Hutchinson not, having a setback, or saying, it's going to take me a little longer than expected. But it was nothing but good news, going forward. And that is what I am looking forward to as well. All right, now we will move on to our third story. Sorry about that. And our third, now this is something I was trying to stay away from this week because my son and we are going to do a mock draft. To be honest, we might wait either the week before or the week of the draft to do our mock draft. I told him I thought about doing 2 of them, but that may not be necessary. We may just wait to the week of to do our mock draft. But to find another story to talk about, I went to si.com, and they have a Lions mock draft that they actually did 39 minutes before I actually posted this video. So let's get into this one. It says that a Lions load up in the trenches, filling needs in latest mock draft. We'll read a little bit of it. It says, talks about the league meetings. Then it says, this year, the defensive line depth is pretty good. We'll just see how it goes. Oh, this is Brad Holmes speaking. We feel good about it, but we tried not to let that affect. Well, let's just take a defensive lineman later, Holmes told the website. So basically, it's talking about what Brad Holmes had to say. It said, with just over 2 weeks into the draft, here is my first projection for a draft class that will help the Lions push themselves over the hump towards the Super Bowl. Now, I have not seen this yet. As I mentioned, right before I started recording this went up 39 minutes ago. So in round 1, they have the Lions taking interior offensive lineman Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State. If he falls to 28, this may not be a bad pick. It says Zabel is an FCS product that has experience with 4 of the 5 offensive line positions during his career with the Bison, primarily a tackle. Zabel's 6'6" frame is hampered by his arm length, with a majority of analysts projecting him to bump to the interior. It says it talks about his PFF grade, and it says, with the largest loss for the Lions free agency being guard Kevin Zeitler, expect the Lions to address interior offensive linemen within the first 2 rounds. Now, I'll tell you why I like this pick. There are a lot of NFL analysts who believe that this kid can play center. So the good thing is that he can come in and start at right guard immediately. Then he could basically also be Frank Ragnow's understudy, because even though Frank Ragnow is, if I'm not mistaken, he's just hitting 30 years old, I think. He is basically on a year-to-year basis because he has kind of said that he's starting to wind down his career. So instead of trying to get a center, which is the key piece of the offensive line and really a key piece of the offense, we might as well get a guy in there right now who could actually slide in to Ragnow's position, and this kid could fit the bill. He can start right now at right guard. You can have Christian Mahogany take Graham Glasgow's spot, and in a few years, this kid could move in at center, and then we could worry about filling right guard at that time. In round 2, they have the Lions taking Josiah Stewart, edge from Michigan. Now, us Michigan people, and I just mean us who live in the state of Michigan, we are familiar with this kid. Stewart is a high productive player with his measurables, 6'1", 245 pounds, holding him back from first round status. However, his production, namely over 30 sacks between his time at Michigan and Coastal Carolina, still has him listed at the number 72 overall prospect on the PFF big board. All right, let's see what we got here. It says the Lions go with the interior offensive line in the opening round, and edge is a near certainty to be addressed on day 2. Stewart also ranked 5th among all edge and PFF grades for the season. It goes on to talk about primary praise for Stewart. They talk about praising Stewart. Now, this is what I think about this. If he's the best player on the board at the time, I may not have an issue with this, but 6'1", 245. I have mentioned before, I like my defensive ends a little bigger than that. I don't have a problem with him being 6'1", but is he as fast as, let's say, Micah Parsons? You know, if you're going to put a 6'1", 245 guy there. But I guess for what it's worth, if he's the best player on the board at that time, I have no issue with it. By the way, the Lions do have 7 draft picks as of now. In the 3rd round, they have the Lions taking defensive tackle Aeneas Pebbles out of Virginia Tech. It says Pebbles has been a quietly productive player throughout his career in the ACC. He started his career at Duke before hitting the portal prior to his final season. It paid off as the newly minted Hokie was named first team All-ACC last season. Pebbles has 7.5 career sacks and 21 tackles for a loss between his final 4 seasons seasons in college. His grades, well, Pebbles was rated the 7th best defensive interior prospect by PFF. And it says, with a Lynn McNeil projected out for the start of the season, the Lions could use another productive, instinctive defensive tackle. Free agent addition, Roy Lopez is more of a run stopper. Thus, Pebbles adds the pass rush and takes pressure off Levi Onwuzurike. So I don't have an issue with this. I would like to see the Lions get another defensive tackle in the draft, so that may not be a bad pick. We move on to the 4th round, where they have the Lions taking Maryland wide receiver Tay Felton in the 4th round. I'm going to be honest, I'm not familiar with Felton. Let's see what it says. Felton was a shining star for the Maryland Terrapins last season, being named a 3rd-team All-American by the AP. It says he had nearly 1,850 yards between his final 25 games as a Terrapin, alongside 15 touchdowns. Let me see if it says something about his measurables. Let's see. No, I don't see what I was looking for. In his final season, Felton started the year hot, recording 4 straight games over 100 receiving yards. However, he ended the year with only 1 more contest over 100 yards. It goes down here to say he was a volume pass catcher with 96 catches last season. His best abilities are that of his football IQ, separation, and route running. So here we go. This might not be a bad pick. Now, I got to be honest, I don't know the kid. It doesn't really ring a bell, but wide receiver is a position I would like to see the Lions hit. The Lions don't have a 5th round pick, so now we jump to round 6, where they have them taking Shamari Simmons, corner / safety from Arizona State. They have him basically as a DB, another position that the Lions really need to bring in. Now, I heard that Avonte Maddox could slide in at the safety spot, but with the Lions losing the safety, Melifonwu, they do, in my opinion, need to bring in a number 3 safety. Simmons played the nickel spot in his final season in Arizona State after earning top MVP in 2023 as safety. Simmons is a willing tackler and disruptor, forcing 4 fumbles and 4 pass breakups in addition to his interception in 2024. His highlight reel moments came during the Peach Bowl when he lowered the boom on Texas running back Quintravion Wisner for a fumble for a safety. All right. Well, I don't have an issue with this, with a pick like this in the 6th round, because the Lions do need a number 3 safety / big nickel. Their next pick in the 7th round, they have the Lions taking another interior offensive lineman, Luke Newman out of Michigan State, a player that Michigan residents should be familiar with. It says Newman is a player that the Lions have expressed interest in, with the Michigan State product working out at the Lions Pro Day this week. Newman is another player that spent time at tackle and guard in college. Newman transitioned to left guard for the Spartans after his time at tackle for Holy Cross and earned all Big Ten honorable mention for his efforts. Now, this is another pick that may be okay, because we're talking about the 7th round. So we're talking about depth here, and we're talking about guys who may or may not even make the team. So if he's the best player on the board, I have no issue with that. And then the last pick, they have the Lions taking linebacker Sean Dolak out of Buffalo. The 2024 MAC Defensive Player of the Year was a force for the Bulls this season. Every number seems more unrealistic. It said Dolak was a box score hero with 168 tackles, 19 for a loss, 6.5 sacks, and 5 interceptions. Unsurprisingly, he was an All-American for his efforts. Now, that's good. Now, if this guy's available in the 7th round pick, this could be a Malcolm Rodriguez type of steal. As I mentioned, when you get to these type of players at this part of the draft, I have no issues with it at all. So there you are, Lions fans. That is this week's episode of Lyons Den Weekly. Give me your thoughts on the stories that we presented. As always, if you haven't already on YouTube, go ahead and give us a follow, give us a like for the algorithm, and give us a subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know anytime we go live. If you haven't already on TikTok, you see it on the screen right there. Go over there and give us a follow on TikTok as well. And right there under my name, you see our Twitter /X page. If you haven't already, give us a follow there. That's it for everything this week. Until next time, Lions fans, we are out, and peace.